Good morning. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living here in beautiful San Clemente. We're so glad you're here with us, here in the sanctuary, out there in video land. We're so happy to have you with us. Glad you're here. Super Bowl's coming, but not now. So right now you get to sing. So if you please stand up and join our fabulous song leaders up here, Wade and Kimberly Wooldridge. We're singing about choosing heaven. It's always a good thing. All 1, 2. Here we go.
I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing I'm choosing heaven today. Choose joy. I'm choosing joy today. I'm choosing joy today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing I'm choosing joy today. Choose love. I'm choosing love today. I'm choosing love today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing I'm choosing love today. Choose beauty. I'm choosing beauty today. I'm choosing beauty today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing I'm choosing beauty today. Choose peace. I'm choosing peace today. I'm choosing peace today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing I'm choosing peace today. Back to heaven. I'm choosing heaven today. I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing I'm choosing heaven today. I am walking the road of heaven right now, singing I'm choosing heaven today.
Good morning, beautiful center. I'm Reverend Carla Sharatis. It's February. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. And we just want to give a big shout out to all you agents of love. If you're here for the very first time, we want you to know that we believe in love. We believe that we came from love. We believe that we were born in the image and likeness of love. And we believe that we're here to be love and to share love. So welcome. We're going to get started this morning with our opening ceremony, lighting the flames of faith. We promote this ceremony, the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from one great universal presence, which we call spirit. Fundamental to this truth is a unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here today. We light the candle for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light the candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light the candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of compliance with the will of God as the highest calling. We light the candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light the candle for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And as our practitioner, Jody Chartman, lights the last candle, let it represent the path which brought you here this morning. And now practitioner Jody will be leading us in our opening prayer.
Thank you, Reverend Carla. So let us begin together with a couple deep breaths and a couple ohms. In through the nose and out through the mouth. One more centering breath. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Now let us chant Om together twice. So I know that there is one power that is love, the greatest power in the cosmos, in the world. And it is in and through everything. I know that spirit is peace, spirit is wholeness, and spirit is right here where I am. And I realize for each one today that we are all one with this power, all one with this peace, in harmony with this love that is expressing through us, as us, now and in each moment. And I claim today that this beautiful service, led by Reverend Bruce, with all involved, is unfolding magically. I know that this experience today is one in which each one here is open and receptive to receiving the beautiful words of wisdom, to receiving the love and being vessels for peace. And I know that each one here receives this nugget of a jewel, nugget of truth, of awareness. That is why each one is here today. I know that the music resonates in our minds, our bodies, and our spirits. And this message is exactly perfect and exquisite for this wonderful Super Bowl Valentine's Day. And so it is with gratitude. I am so grateful for the power of love, so grateful for the power of prayer, so grateful for spirit in our lives, and for the wonderful connection and unity that we all share in this wonderful exchange of energy, ideas, and love today and every day. And so I release these words into the law of mind, knowing it is already so and it is good. Please join me in saying, and so it is. And now, we have our affirmation for today. Let's join together in reading this. I am the co-creator of my life, and so it is. You know what? Let's do that one more time with a little more conviction. Will County? Come on. Let's be the co-creator of my life, and so it is. Thank you. All right. And now, the Declaration of Principles. Please join me. I believe in God, the one creative intelligence operating through the universe and operating throughout my entire being, now and always. I believe the perfect spirit operates on a law of mind and creates my experience exactly according to my belief. I believe this perfect creative intelligence can be used by me and by every other person to produce health, abundance, love in mind, body, and total life experience. I use it now, and I rejoice in it, and so it is.
Thank you, Jody. That was beautiful. Now it's my great pleasure to welcome, as our guest soloist this morning, Michael Giramani.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
I am just a sailor in a great big sea, searching for what's meant for me. And I thank my lucky stars every single day. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. When the storm begins to blow, and when I've lost my way back home, oh, there is an answer. Oh, there is an answer. There is a ripple to every wave, a rhythm to the days and nights, and all the thoughts that make the world go round, all our efforts multiply. Make a change and you will see, one small step is all we need. Oh, there is an answer. Oh, there is an answer. There is no difference between you and me. It lies beyond our history. And if we only take the time to see we're all we need, just take my hand and see me as your brother. Look inside and you will find love exists in every kind. Oh, there is an answer. Oh, there is an answer.
stand here, but it's okay. I won't mess up your music. Probably. Good morning. This has been a strange week for me, and then I came here and people were reminding me that it's. Take your mask off. Oh, that's right. Oh, but then they'll know who I am. There's no reward. Okay. There's no poster somewhere. Okay. On the floor. Yeah, we can stay there. Anyways, I was reminded it's Valentine's Day tomorrow, and the reason that's important to me is my wife and I use Valentine's Day as the anniversary when we met. But we didn't really meet on Valentine's Day. We at one time figured it out, it was the day before or the day after, but since we didn't know it's going to be important to remember, I went back and actually, there was 47 years ago today. And we didn't get married right away, but we've known each other and been involved that long. And so I went back and checked the calendar for that year and realized it was probably the 13th, the day before. Why do I know that? Well, because Thursday night was typically ladies' night at the dance places, and I met my wife dancing at a nightclub. And I don't always recommend to my clients that they go shopping in a place where they're serving alcohol to meet people for, long-term relationship, because just like if you go to the Carpenters Union Hall, everybody you meet there is not going to be a carpenter, but it increases the odds, right? And so if you go to meet people in a bar, not everybody's an alcoholic. It turned out we weren't, but it certainly increases the odds. But it worked out for us. And so it was nice for me to be reminded of that, because earlier this week I was had a memorial service for one of my colleagues who got accidentally killed by somebody who was showing him his new gun. And it was just horrible. I mean, it's been a real shock for the peacekeeping community that I work in. And one of my nephews has gotten some really bad news about his physical health. And I have some other people who are going through difficulties and challenges in life. And the other night, all this is weighing on me. I think it was the night before I went to the memorial service, and I was having trouble sleeping. And so I suddenly realized I can do something about that. I sort of woke up all wide awake at 2 a.m, and after about 15, 20 minutes, I decided I would get up and read, and so I decided I would read the 4th volume, well, not the whole thing, I read like 2 or 3 pages, but the 4th volume of Dr. Holmes' home study course. I highly recommend this. I actually think this should be part of the ministerial program, and I'm going to recommend to Alice that the next time she talks to somebody who can do something about that do it, because he wrote this in the early 1950s, so he'd been thinking about these things for 20 years after he wrote the textbook, and it's really refined, and it's really interesting. So I got that out of the way. So now the thing that really attracted me to this teaching is it's practical. It's not just what's going on. It's not just identifying, some theory, but there's actually practical steps. So my talk today, and I didn't know that was going to be our affirmation, but it's how you can co-create your life. Gee, really? I can do that? Well, yes, you can. Someone pointed out, and I don't remember who, I like to give credit, all student habits, but anyway, somebody pointed out that if you get a group of psychics together and have them examine something, they will come up with different pieces of information, if you find some real psychics. But if you go to the mystics, whether separated by centuries or continents, have always taught us 2 things in common. One, that we come from one source and we're eternal beings. And it's interesting how, across the continents, across the centuries, that holds true in all the major teachings. And so one of the things that I like about this teaching is it resonates with the way I practice as a therapist. Some of you know that I do that in my regular life. And so if you've ever talked to a therapist or read psychology, you'll often find that different theories tend to contradict each other. If that's true, then why is this going on? And why is that? Well, it's a new science. The first school of psychology only came in the United States in 1895. Now, you know, if I was to tell that to my granddaughter who's 19, when she was little, she used to laugh when I used to talk about things happening in the 1900s, like, oh, you're making it up, right? But 1895 is not very long ago for this kind of thing. And so it's really been different ways of trying to explain what seemed to be invisible things. It was, of course, what got people's attention were people having terrible, desperate problems, and they seemed almost as if they were being possessed by invisible forces. And so, you know, a lot of people would just be, in some religions, and maybe even now today, they think we're possessed. But by studying the different ailments people had, different theories arose. And then when family therapy was developed, it came out of systems theories. And so they started noticing systems, and so started applying different things to it. So there's lots of moving parts all the time in our mind and also in our families. And so it's useful to be able to go back to, if there's only one, and we all come from the same place, then there has to be a cause to everything that's going on in our life. And so as a therapist, what I found, at least psychologically, the way to be effective is to learn as many of the different theories that make sense to me as I can. And when I run out of gas in one, I can always bring in the other. And what holds it together is I have my own unified field theory of how it all works. And of course, that includes science of mind. So my clients who know nothing about this get treatment, and my clients who do know a lot about this get spiritual mind treatment, because it's part of my unified field theory. But this is what I believe to be true, that every human being, no matter how wonderful or how terrible you think that person is, I believe each one of us is doing the very best we can based on what we believe about life. The catch is, most people don't know what their core beliefs are, because many of our most important beliefs about everything, about ourselves, about people, about the universe, about life, about God, about not God, many of them were done when we didn't even have language to articulate it. And by the first 5 years of life, we have a pretty set idea of what we think life is all about. But since most people don't do that kind of work on themselves, we live in what I like to call a trance. And we've heard the word trance, but to me a trance is artificially low expectations based on, and they're self-imposed, based on unexamined or poorly examined beliefs. And so if we could figure out what these beliefs are, we could maybe change them. Well, we can't always figure out what they are. We can get clues. So that takes me to the next part. I believe, and Holmes talks about it in the textbook, that life, it's kind of like, well, I guess people have used like television or movies. Every generation as technology goes forth, they say, well, you know, it's like that. But think of it as a movie. And we're actually all creating our own holograph. Or hologram? Yeah, hologram. Every single nanosecond. It's been estimated that our brain takes in maybe as much as 30,000 pieces of information every nanosecond just from our 5 senses. And I don't think that includes the memories that get triggered, but nonetheless, 30,000 pieces. But nobody could possibly keep track of that booming, buzzing confusion, because it turns out as human beings, we can hold, well, there's different ideas. Some have decided, based on psychological testing of memory, that we can consciously hold between 7 and 11 chunks of information at any given moment. I talked to Mark Waldman, who's considered one of the leading practitioners or leading authorities on spiritual reality and neuroscience, and he used to write, maybe still does write for Science of Mind magazine, and he said we can only hold 2. So think of that. We hold somewhere between 7 to 30,000 pieces of information coming in, and we can hold on to 2 or 11 of them, 11 if we're really smart, at a time, and we call that reality. And the rest of it becomes background, but that background is still running. So in our teaching, we believe that we activate the creative power through our beliefs. And if you don't know what you're believing, I mean, we don't know about our unconscious beliefs. That's why we call them unconscious. So Holmes pointed out decades ago that, people do create. We're constantly creating based on our belief. And, so when people manifest disease or unhappiness or despair, it's metaphysical meanness to point, what's your consciousness? I mean, great. Not only am I sick, but now it's my fault. It's like, how's that helpful? Because we don't know what we believe. I can tell you what I believe is the most important decision we'll ever make in our lives, and it was made when we were very young, possibly when we were babies in the crib. And that belief is whether we believe in our core that we live in a safe, friendly universe, or whether we live in a dangerous universe, or what most people seem to believe, we live in a capricious universe. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Well, I'm here to tell you that it can be worked, but there's some steps you can take. It's useful to know that our brain is wired for pattern recognition. That's why the human brain can be faster than computers, because computers still work on a binary, but the brain lights up tens of thousands of neurological connections every nanosecond. We have billions of them, and they're constantly changing and constantly growing. If you think of a community that's always reaching out to make new connections. So if there's only one of us, but it looks like there's a lot of us here, right? Anybody have any doubt that there's a lot of us here? It's because our brains are wired for that. Our brains are wired for survival in a physical form. And so our early ancestors had to deal with a lot of physical dangers. So it's really important to remember where the danger was. A lot more important to remember where the danger was than where the good time is, because the danger could be the lion, and you could never afford to forget the lion. So if something dangerous happened to you, or life-threatening, or seemed to happen, maybe it got real quiet at that moment, or maybe it was the light at a certain time of year. So your brain here sees that, and it starts going through the files. What do I know about this? What do I know? Oh boy, the lion. Okay, and all of a sudden we're in the fight or flight response. And it takes less than a second, a fraction of a second, and our body's being flooded with adrenaline that lights up a whole cascade of biological experiences in our body. And as I was listening to the radio on the way down here, alternating between Alan Watts and the news of the day, the news of the day was screaming for panic. And maybe you've had that at times in your own life, just the circumstances in your life screaming for panic. And the way it does that, one of the purposes of adrenaline is to force us to look at a problem. And it does it by making us feel really horrible. And like we just have to do something. And everybody ever had one of those things where you're just so anxious and so desperate you feel you got to do something? It's either reach for a drink or hit somebody or do something else that's stupid, right? And so we'll do things that aren't always the right thing. And I'm here to tell you that if you don't know what to do, doing the wrong thing is not better than doing nothing. And yet, how many of us have had that experience where we're hoping nobody will really see that email we sent out of imagined offense, or maybe real offense, or the voicemail that you hope you sneak into the office and erase, but you can't. Anybody done that? Or just be feeling so desperate you start driving too fast to try and get somewhere where you can make one of those mistakes, and you've already made a mistake, you're driving too fast. So, that stuff happens to us immediately, and it's useful to know that, because then we can, and so those become our habitual patterns of thought, and our habitual patterns of thought activate this creative magnificence, which it's kind of like a wishing well. A genie could give us anything, Boy, I wish I could have a crisis today. I know how to handle a crisis. Your wish is my command, Or what I'd really like for breakfast? I'd like some coffee, I'd like a bagel, maybe some lox and some cream cheese, and I'd like somebody to play the part of my, condemning parent and hurt my feelings today. You know, there's my order, put on my breakfast order, right? I mean, and you, okay, here you go. And if you don't believe it, just start monitoring your inner conversations. Because right now you're all having an inner conversation. You're agreeing with me, hopefully, if you know it's good for you. By the way, last year, what I gave up for Lent, I stopped listening to people who disagreed with me or had opinions different. And it worked out so well, I'm going to do it again. You know, I recommend it. But anyways, you're having that conversation. You're agreeing, you're disagreeing. You're wondering, why is he talking so much or so fast? Or I don't believe that. Or you're having a memory. Likely you might be having a memory. Now, that also is part of that experience of imagining a multiplicity of consciousness, because while I'm having a memory, I can look at myself having that memory, and you can look at it right now. You see the observer, and you can feel yourself, and you can see you're noticing this and you're noticing that. And it feels like multiplicity, but since all those things are happening together, they're all happening in the same background of all this happening together, and it's still only one, but it feels like we can divide ourselves up. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so recognizing that is useful, and recognizing that consciously or unconsciously we are activating this power. I remember being familiar with the idea of a self-fulfilling prophecy when I was studying psychology. And I had an experience. I didn't recognize it at the time, but I was living in Seattle, and some friends were in a softball league. And somebody didn't show up, and they asked me if I'd play. Now, I was a good athlete in college. I lettered in 2 sports, but baseball was not one of them. I was bad at baseball. So they put me out. Where do they put you when they think you're no good? It's right field. Okay, they have me in right field. And I'm out there in right field, and I'm standing there, and I'm rehearsing my disaster. I'm thinking there's going to be this high fly, and it's going to go way out there, and I'm going to look like an idiot in front of all these people that have become my new friends and may really regret that they asked me to play. And sure enough, now, I'm not saying it was a high pop-up. It was softball, but it seemed pretty high. And I got there, and I'm all worried about it, and I'm worried about dropping it, and I catch it. And then I immediately open my hands and drop it. Why? Because it turns out every time we have a thought, the brain emits a neurotransmitter that prepares the part of the body that's going to carry out that movement to do it. And I'd been out there rehearsing it perfectly. So regardless of the fact that I had the ability and the reflexes to catch it, that wasn't my program. It was like that, you know? Okay, so we have our internal program. However, if you can get to a computer that has a modem, you can plug into not just the programs that are in your computer, but you can now tap into a world full of information. And if you learn this teaching and get the idea that you have yourself that can impact the world, but you can turn into the first cause, whatever it is, as Reverend Alice likes to say, the thing that makes the grass grow, and is running the entire universe, you can tap into that power, and you can change your life. And a really good first step is to monitor and start examining your inner conversations. Instead of rehearsing your disasters, maybe there's another way. And the first step is to be aware. So, ask yourself, do your inner conversations support your hopes or your fears? And if you like what they're supporting, then keep thinking that. But if you don't, I suggest you think of something else, which is why I got up. And one of my spiritual practices is I highlight in books anytime I come across something that inspired me. So if I'm having one of those ain't it awful days, like I had this week, I know I can open up a book and look for a place where I highlighted something, start reading right there, and I know that within 5 or 10, 15 minutes, I'm going to be having a totally different internal conversation. And so as I relax, my body can process out those fight or flight chemicals. And then I can actually decide what I want to be thinking about. So I think that that's a good thing to be able to do. So if we're going to go back to cause, we're still dealing with this trigger, these different things that can trigger us. And in fact, our brain has a negative bias. Our negative bias makes it so that negative events are deeply etched in the brain much more than positive events, and earlier ones even more so, which explains why many people have more negative memories of their early life or the growing up than they do positive. Not everybody does, but many people do, but it's not necessarily because more bad things happened. It's because the brain hasn't changed much in the last 50,000 years, and that need to look for the lion who's not even there, but just might be there, becomes more important than the real thing that's actually happening. Now, isn't that true of ourselves right now when we start to think of a potential problem? And then if we're really good, we can scan the horizon and figure out the worst possible outcome. And then we can rest because now we've locked in the one and only possibility. And then we can say all kinds of things to ourselves that we try to believe, but it's not about wishing and hoping we believed. It's about really believing. And it takes practice to do that. If you tell yourself, if you're having financial trouble, and some prosperity people say, well, just keep affirming I have $1 million, or whatever you want to say, I have $1 million. Now, I don't know about you, but if I start saying that, my brain pops up and says, oh yeah? Try and write a check, see what happens. What about that bill sitting over there? I mean, anybody have that experience in life, anytime, anywhere, the inner critic. So you have to have ways to bypass the inner critic. And so I shared one of those in early meditation today. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. And while you're closing your eyes, and just for a few minutes, I'd like you to say this sentence to yourself. And say it, for 2 or 3 minutes, just over and over. Spirit, or you can call Spirit God, you can call Spirit George. Spirit doesn't really care. I mean, if you're the master of the universe, you don't really care what I call you, really? Anyways, but God is all there is. And if you're not comfortable with God, some people aren't, Spirit is all there is, and the Spirit loves me. Spirit is all there is, and Spirit loves me. Spirit, which has the power to generate and manage trillions of star systems simultaneously over trillions of years, and create a universe so large we have to measure it in terms of light years. And it makes the grass grow, and somehow I digest food and don't know how I do it. That power loves me. It's all there is. And God loves me. What could be better than that? And so I suggest to settle your mood if you're feeling anxious, just take a few minutes, whether it's 5 minutes or 30 minutes, depending on how much your trance of the senses is screaming for panic. God is all there is, and God loves me. And if you do that just to yourself, repeatedly, rhythmically, whether it takes 5 minutes or 20 minutes, it still works. You'll calm down. And then you can take another step. And I invite you to consider this. And many of you heard me say this before, but a friend of mine who's a sales trainer told me when I told him, a lot of times I feel like I'm just giving the same talk wherever I am, what I do. And he looked at me and said, well, Bruce, there's only so many ways to sell a can of peas. So you're going to hear my stuff in different ways. But I'm going to ask you a question, and you're immediately going to know the answer to this question because there's only one answer. And you'll recognize it. And here's the question. Wouldn't it be nice if this process I'm talking about today, wouldn't it be nice if you started doing it and it turned out better than you had ever dared hope? Anybody know the answer? Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Now the beauty of that question is it bypasses my inner critic. I'm not saying it is going to turn out better than I ever hoped. So, Mr. Cranky can pop him and say, oh yeah? Because no, the answer is so clear. And when you remind yourself of that. Wouldn't it be nice if it turned out better than I ever dared hope? It opens your mind to possibility. You can almost taste the result. And you can remind yourself that just like an author can rewrite the whole script because she changed her mind, or a painter can repaint a scene, the maker can always remake, and it doesn't matter how long that pattern's been going on. You are the only thinker in your own mind, and learning how to overcome that negative bias allows you to move it in, and that's a way of bypassing it. A wonderful thing you can do to really train your mind to pay attention to positive things at least as much or more than negative things is before you go to sleep at night, write down 100 things that you're grateful for. Some people go, 100 things, how could I? Well, here's how it works. In fact, it's better if it's longer. Because as you're going through the day, I mean, to take time to write down 100 things, that's time consuming, right? And now you have to find things to fit. I mean, okay, I'm alive, that's good. I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. It's not exactly what I had in mind. That's not so good. But, nonetheless, I'm here. Then I can start to go to bigger things. But then maybe I got 10 or 15, but okay. Anybody here ever had a back injury or pain in your body anywhere? And anybody ever who's had that, do you have as much pain right now or do you have less? Maybe less. Well, wouldn't you have been grateful to be feeling then how you're feeling now? One time I was driving in the mountains and I was 50 miles with the next rest stop and I was barely awake. Everybody been in that situation? And so I made a deal with myself. Whenever I'm home and I'm in bed or my own home and I'm feeling sleepy and I can lay my head back and close my eyes and nothing bad's going to happen, I'm going to be deliberately grateful. Because what's the point of the universe giving me anything? I'm always going to complain that, it's not enough. I mean, I'd have given anything for that. And so by doing the gratitude list, you can go to, okay, right eye's working good, grateful. Left eye's working good, right finger. So this finger's working, that finger. And when they're not working, you wish they were. And it's easy to come up with 100. And so by making it a long list that turned into a task, you start looking for anything that qualifies. And if you do that for about even 2 weeks, you start to appreciate the good things in your life. It becomes automatic, and it's a really great tool. Which takes me to 4 steps if you really want to change your life. And people have heard me talk about this before, but can of peas, only so many ways. First, get real clear on what it is you want. You're already pretty clear on what you don't want. You don't want more weight you don't want, but figure out what you really want. And then here's the part that's really important that most people overlook, and that's the things in your life that didn't work out. I can practically guarantee you missed this step, and the things you did in life that worked out, you did this step. And that's you make a firm decision that this is going to happen. A firm decision, no matter what. I didn't like every class I took to become a therapist, but they wouldn't let me take the one they wanted unless I did the others. So I didn't get slowed down by lack of money or lack of opportunity or lack of schedule, whatever. I just was going to do it, now it's going to happen. I always thought it'd be great to be a rock and roll star, but probably would have been better to learn how to play something or sing or at least act like I could sing. But I didn't, so that didn't happen. Okay, so you make that firm decision. Then this is where the monitoring your inner conversation takes place. Start paying attention to every idea you have that if that idea is true, you can't have what you want. And I'll give you an example because people come to me all the time. They want to have a good relationship. They talk about how they've always had bad relationships. So I'll do a treatment for them or I'll work with them as a therapist. And then before they leave the office, they'll say something like, all the good ones are taken. Oops, now we have a physics problem. Those 2 ideas cannot coexist in the same universe. Either you got to admit you're not going to have a relationship or that you're not one of the good ones because you're not taken, or you have to relinquish that idea and step into your relationship. And just, it's going to happen no matter what. And then you start affirming so that you are supporting your hopes. And then act as if. And act as if is not pretending. It's taking congruent action with what you do if you really believed it. If you think you're going to go to Europe, and I ask you if you have a passport and you don't have one, then you don't believe you're going. And that's something you could do. So you go, the next obvious step that you would do that's congruent with what you say you're going to do if you really believed it. If you don't believe it, I'll go back and rework the other steps. And then the last one is to just turn it over. Just keep walking, one foot in front of the other until you get there. So that is how you can, as the only thinker in your mind, and recognizing that the maker can remake anything, is the only truth you need to know, and that's how you can co-create your life. Namaste. Stay.
Please help me welcome back to our stage Michael Giramonte.
And if I stepped on your time, I apologize, Michael.
I am what I am. I am my own special creation. So come take a look. Give me the hook or the ovation. It's my world that I want to have a little pride in. My world, and it's not a place I have to hide in. Life's not worth a damn till you can say, hey world, I am what I am. I am what I am. I don't want praise, I don't want pity. I bang my own drum. Some say it's noise, I say it's pretty. And so what if I love each feather and each spangle? Why not try to see things from a different angle? Your life is a sham till you can shout out loud, I am what I am. I am what I am, and what I am needs no excuses. I deal my own deck, sometimes the ace, sometimes the deuces. There's one life and there's no return and no deposit. One life, so it's time to open up your closet. Life's not worth a damn till you can say, hey world, I am what I am. Thank you.
Let's give another round of applause to Michael Giramonte. Thank you so much. Who says you can't bring a musical Broadway to Sunday service? And now it's time for our offertory. Our offertory is about honoring a place within us that is spiritually fed. Right here within us. And so we give back. We give back with our tithes and our gifts. So I welcome you to be generous with that. And I want you to also know that there is a basket at each one of our doors where you can leave your gift to us. And why don't we together read our offertory? My offering is my acceptance of God as the source of my supply and symbolizes my faith in the abundant flow of this supply.
Michael's going to help me out on this song. That's very appropriate for us. It's called If We Hold On Together. Don't lose your way with each passing day. You've come so far, don't throw it away. Live believing, dreams are for weaving, wonders are waiting to start. Live your story, faith, hope, and glory. Hold to the truth in your heart.
If we hold on together, I know our dreams will never die. Dreams see us through to forever, where clouds roll by. For you and I, souls in the wind must learn how to bend. Seek out a star, hold on to the end. Valley, mountain, there is a fountain, washes our tears all away. Waves are swaying, someone is praying, please let us come home to stay. If we hold on together, I know our dreams will never die. Dreams see us through to forever, where clouds roll by. For you and I, when we are out there in the dark, we'll dream about the sun.
In the dark, we'll feel the light warm our hearts, everyone.
If we hold on together, I know our dreams will never die. Dreams see us through to forever, as high as souls can fly. The clouds roll by for you and I, as high as souls can fly. The clouds roll by for you and Thank you.
Reverend Bruce talked about the principle of gratitude in his talk, and how much gratitude I'm feeling right now for the beautiful music that supports this center. Let's give a warm, warm appreciation and applause to our music director, Diane Van King, our amazing band that just fills us with so much joy and so much love. And I'd like to also acknowledge all of those of you that have been in service over this past week. Would you please stand for us so we can shout out some beautiful love to you all? These are the people that anchor this center, that support us in making all of this happen, and we are so appreciative. And if our practitioners would stand just for a moment. These are the people that serve us in love, and they serve us in prayer. And they've been taught and trained in the art and science of prayer. So you have an opportunity today to be with one of them in prayer, if you so choose. We have Jody Chartman, we have Jill Burnett, and we also have Cheryl Lyman. Let's back there. So right here in our 2 tables in the back, or in our quiet room, they'll be available to you after service. Let's give it a nice hand applause one more time. Thank you. And now we're ready for some invitations by Wade and Kimberly.
Whether you're living the dream,
Or living in your car.
whether you're living dangerously,
Or living large.
there is a whole lot of living to be done right here at the center.
If you're living in the past, you might recall that you didn't visit the bookstore last week. And if you're living for today, you must go there to see what's new. Living legend Francie Kennedy is still having creative urges and waking up excited to play in the bookstore space. There are sales galore on books and jewelry and other gift items, so check it out. They are the living end.
Reverend Alice is living proof of the art of play. And for the month of March, the theme is play. Reverend Alice mentioned this week that she's been missing the regular game night she used to enjoy while living in style in Santa Cruz. Next month, she wants to have a game night here, and she wants to play some Mexican Train.
Well, that scares the living daylights out of me.
No, it's okay. It's dominoes. Who else is living La Vida Loca and ready to sign up on the kiosk?
If you're living on the edge and want to play some other game, feel free to nominate a game that you like to play. We've put out additional sign-up sheets to see if there's enough people are interested in playing your favorite game. If there's enough interest in this kind of living out loud, we might begin to have a game night each month.
If you're tired of living in the material world, join Mary and friends, Living the Life of Riley, and live and in person for the talk here at station CSL-CV. That is to say, Conscious Connection will be living in the moment today at 12 noon in the sanctuary to discuss Reverend Bruce's message, and all are invited.
If you are living on a prayer or living in a prayer, Shifting Sands meets on Thursdays via Zoom from 10:30 to 12:30. There's usually a video or two that serve to inform, inspire, and stimulate the conversation. The newest member of Shifting Sands, living to tell the tale after her first 3 weeks, said it's an honor to be part of such a woke group of like-minded people with varied interest and elevated conversations.
The unexamined life is not worth living. Coming Home to Spirit is another support group led by living doll Joyce Fournier that gathers on Zoom at 8 a.m. on Friday mornings. Members in this group can share the joys and challenges of living in an environment of support and compassion. It's not assisted living, but it is living assisted.
In living color, our annual meeting will be Sunday, February 27th at 12:15, right after the service. That's Pacific for those of you living on Tulsa time. Light fare will be served, followed by the meeting. Join us live here or on Zoom in your living room.
And now, live it up and join us for the closing song.
I see you for the light that you are. I see you for the love that you are. Oh, I see you for the light that you are. I see your light, I see your love, I see who you are. see your light, I see your love, I see who you are. I see you for the light that you are. I see you for the love that you are. I see you for the light that you are. I see your light, I see your love, I see who you are. I see your light, I see your love, I see who you are. One more time. I see your light, I see your love, I see who you are. And I claim that everybody here and everybody listening to this over other mediums is finding that piece of information, that truth that allows them to truly accept living the life of our dreams. And so it is. So it is.